Warhammer 40K Rogue Trader Void Shadows DLC. This time around we're doing the full guide for trading. Trading is extremely important in Rogue Trader. You got 5 factions to trade with and you trade with Profit Factor. Let's not waste time and let's go.
Are you ready for Warhammer 40K Rogue Trader? As I am. The Emperor protects.
Let's begin with basics first. Your main trade resource is Profit Factor. The bigger the Profit Factor is, the more you can buy. But in order to unlock all of the items so that you can buy them, you need to raise your reputation with 5 different factions in the game. Drusians, Explorators, Kazbalika, Fellowship of the Void, and the Imperial Navy. Each faction offers different items for different type of gameplay. Every faction desires something else. For example, Drusians, they pay the most for the holy gifts, while Opticon pays a lot for heretic trophies as well, while Octaviana here pays a lot for Xeno artifacts. Now, how do we know what's what? All you need to do is to hover over the gear in your inventory. For example, this is armor cargo kit, weapon cargo kit. Weapons can be heretical weapons, classic range weapons, melee weapons, then trinkets that can be mechanical creations, then I don't know what, miscellaneous, okay, ship cargo, fuel, blah blah blah. So all the different types. Once you hover, you can just add them to cargo, okay. As you add to cargo, you see how now there's greens. You select tradables, you click trade, and you gain reputation. When you gain reputation, new items unlock and you can buy them with your Profit Factor. That's how trading works in Rogue Trader. Now, how do we get Profit Factor? The first thing is you get Profit Factor from doing different objectives, side quests, main quests. As you rise in power, so does your Profit Factor goes up, okay? And you can buy more stuff. The other way to gain Profit Factor is through trading, okay? Or better to say, through your colonies. Now, more info about how colonies and how to get Profit Factor is on a separate video that you can find on my channel. I recommend watching that one as well because it's closely connected to trading. Now, as far as trading goes, trading consists out of the early trading and late game trading. Why do I say so? Early trading means that not all items are available, only by some limit, okay? Like here until reputation 15, for example. So that counts. Early game trading for all factions counts from Act 1 to Act 3, while late game trading is when the new items unlock, and that happens at the beginning of Act 4. Now it counts from 15, or better to say from 16, all the way up to 31, and that goes for every faction. Every faction unlocks new items once you enter Act 4. So we got early game trading and late game trading. Now let's see what's best to do early game and what's best to do late game, and what's for what and what you should max out first in order. Let's begin. What is the most important upgrade early on? You need to unlock Koronus, like I showed in my colonies video, and go for the Imperial Navy upgrades. Because you're gonna get reputation points and you're gonna unlock all of the ship upgrades, okay? So combat, space combat becomes easier. This is mandatory and this is the most important upgrade early on. Not only early on, also applies for the late game. But this is the thing that you wanna max out as soon as possible. Imperial Navy is the most important one. Now, Drusians, Explorators, Kazbalika, and Fellowship of the Void. What do we do and how do we trade with them? Because you cannot trade everything, okay? Early on, you're limited with resources, you add to cargo, okay? items that you don't need and then you trade, right? So you can't get them all, but you can get the most important stuff out of everyone. Drusians, they're there for Abelard, Heinrichs, Kibela, Argenta, and Cassia gear. Explorators, they're there for Pascal, Snipers, Extractiums, and Irliet. We only speak about early game now. Kazbalika, or better to say Vladine. Kazbalika is there for the officer if you plan to play with your main as an officer, for the master tactician, for the grand strategist archetypes, for a lot of Xenos gear and Hereticus gear, for Cassia, or better to say for your navigator, and Psykers gear. That's what Vladime is for, or better to say Kazbalika. And at the end we got Ryza, or better to say Fellowship of the Void. Ryza is there if you intend to play as a Pyromancer, some utility items, and some items for Abelard. Also, you can use some on Heinrichs as well, but basically Ryza is the weakest one out of all traders early game. You should max out Ryza, or better to say, you should max out Fellowship of the Void the last as far as early game goes. What do we go for? ASAP. We go to Opticon and we go for the mobile extractiums as soon as possible. You need extractiums so you can dig resources when you scan planets. This is mandatory and you need this. Once we take extractiums from the explorators, we're gonna go to Drusians and we're gonna rush down all the way until you see the dark visionary hood for Cassia. She needs this helmet, okay? Dark visionary hood is what we want over here with Drusians. After we're done with this, and once we get reputation on 7 and collect the helmet for Cassia, then we're transferring to Vladime, and we want to max out Vladime as soon as possible so we can get the red crystal staff for Cassia before we enter Act 3. It's completely doable, it's completely possible. If you do all side quests, if you sell all gear that you don't need, if you do all the colonies like it is that I said in my video, you can check it out on my YouTube channel. You're gonna start Act 3 with a red crystal staff, with hood for Cassia, and with a bunch of other useful items. Now let's check them out. First of all, Deloroso will give you heavy bolter for Argenta. This is a huge upgrade, and that's why I say we go all the way down to the Dark Visionary Hood, because we're also gonna grab a heavy bolter for Argenta, as well as a power claymore for Abelard or Heinrichs. Very good amount of great items here. Or also, early game, we're gonna get Elite Chainsword for Abelard, and we're gonna get Sanctified Staff if you play as a Sanctic for your main, or even better, you can equip this on Heinrichs. Also, I gotta say one more thing about Doloroso. He's got a lot of great gear for Argenta, not only heavy bolter, also a great armor for Argenta, as well as some crazy good stuff for the newly added companion in the Void Shadows DLC, Kibela. He's got Silent Death, he's got Stacking Executioner Gauntlets, okay, for the damage over time, because Kibela does a lot of damage over time. So Doloroso is pretty much worth maxing out at the early game. As far as Opticon goes, in early game, I said Extractiums only. There is no need to max him out until you finish with other factions. You can ignore Ryza and Opticon when you get Extractiums. What we wanna do now is max Vladime. Vladime gives phenomenal items for your entire setup, for your entire team, for all companions basically. If you play as an officer or master tactician, you profit immediately out of Vladime, yeah, with these two items. Also, Argenta, when she takes heavy bolter out of the other faction, can also take precise bolter here, so she becomes extremely strong early on. Tormented bracelets are great on Idira if you don't plan to play as a Hereticus. Anatomy's amulet is great on Kibela here on Vladime. As I said, every single item here, Outcast Visor, great on Irliet. As you make progress through Kazbalika, you're just gonna keep unlocking better and better stuff all the way through. Gauntlets, great on Argenta, great on Irliet. And then finally, on Reputation 8, we unlock Navigator Staff for Cassia, into Stormbolter for Argenta, into some great snipers that you can use for your main, that you can use on Jaya Heydari, for example, that you can use on Idira, and so on, the Roar, and Sniper Rifle. At the end, we're gonna unlock Bracers for Kibela, great sniper for Irliet, one of the best snipers, especially if you do it before entering Act 3, you're gonna deal 33% more damage to Drukhari's. And at the end, we end up with a Red Crystal Staff on Cassia, which is extremely important to deal tons of damage. If you play as a Psyker, the most OP item, early item in a game, would be a Warp Surge Brush. This is like one insane item that gives you number of additional attacks equal to your Psy rating. You can spam like crazy, especially if you play a damage dealing Psyker like a Pyro Psyker or a Telepath. So once we max out Vladine, Kazbalika, and when we max out the Rusians, then we can opt in and go for Opticon, or better to say for Explorators, max it all out, get some great gear for Pascal like Heavy Plasma Gun, some targeting visor for Irliet, great armors, great trinkets, and of course heavy armor for Abelard. Once we're done with what I said and in what order, then we go to the Fellowship of the Void and we unlock everything there is here with Ryza, but basically you don't need all of these items early game. Ryza is the most important in the late game. And now, speaking about late game, everything changes in Act 4, because all of these traders get new items, where Fellowship of the Void actually becomes the best, from worst in early game to best in late game. It's vice versa now from everything that I said once you enter Act 4. Let's see Act 4. This would be the very start of Act 4 and all gear that's available. You remember how it was till 15, now it's from 16 all the way to 31, for every faction is the same, okay? Where traders get bunch of new items. Now what do we rush for in Act 4? Let's see. Ryza, or better to say Fellowship of the Void, they end up here with Carnage, and now all of this from 22 and beyond opens up. The very first thing that we wanna do is rush down Ryza for the Astronomicon Regalia Staff for Cassia. This Navigator Staff is absolutely crazy good, and that would be the most important upgrade. Of course, I don't want to repeat myself, you need to max out Imperial Navy for the ship upgrades, but that's a separate thing. We're now talking about it always remains the same for Imperial Navy, max it out. Now we talk about Fellowship of the Void and classic gear for companions, yeah? So as I said, we rush down Ryza now to get Astronomicon Regalia for Cassia. With Astronomicon Regalia, we stop maxing out Ryza and we transfer to other factions. Now we switch to Vladime, or better to say to Kazbalika, and we're gonna max out all the way down until we get armor piercing ammo for Argenta, so she always hits with her bolter. It's guaranteed hits, she cannot miss. Also, there's plenty of cool stuff along the way, of course, that you're gonna unlock with Vladime. A lot of armors, a lot of Xenotech, a lot of useful trinkets, as well as Staff of Shak and Ave, if you intend to play as a Psyker. Also, with Vladime, during Act 3, you're gonna get your new companion, Space Wolf, Space Marine Ulfar, and the very first item that you wanna equip on Ulfar would be the first item that Vladime sells. It would be a Startis Bolt Pistol. It's extremely good on Ulfar, it deals a lot of damage, and it's very reliable. Now, once we're done with, as I said, Staff from Ryza for Cassia, and once we get everything for Argenta, Ulfar, and if you play Psyker or so on, then we pick between Drusians and Explorators. What do we go for? We're gonna go to Opticon, or better to say now it's Zeta instead of Opticon. We go to Explorators, and we're gonna raise reputation all the way until we can get the invigorating resolve, because invigorating resolve is extremely good trinket that you can equip on Pascal, and all allies will get temporary wounds, temporary HP. Once we're done with that, we're going to Doloroso, and we're gonna max out Hieronymus Doloroso, or better to say, we're gonna max out Drusians. Why do we max out Drusians? Because best gear in late game is here, or better to say, the cheapest gear, the easiest one to get, is on Doloroso. What we get out of Doloroso? We get military combat tool for Ulfar or Argenta. We get a great plasma gun for Pascal. We get great amulet for Psykers. We get 2 great helmets for Ulfar. We get a very good power sword. And we probably get one of the best items in a game if you don't play Grand Strategist, cause it gives Grand Strategist passive on all other archetypes, soldier, whatever, okay, any type of psyker, officer, master tactician, the newly added archetype blade dancer, and so on. It's Commander's Chrono. This is the best item that you can get in late game. Why? Because you're always gonna play first. You easily get the passive out of the Grand Strategist archetype, while not being a Grand Strategist. Any class, any companion, your main, everyone profits out of Commander's Chrono. It's the best freaking item in a game. It's the item that's gonna resolve fights in the very first round, especially if you play as an officer, master tactician. And to top it all off, on top of Commander's Chrono, Doloroso also offers great armor for Kibela, as well as a lot of great melee weapons, Righteous Justice for Heinrichs, Partner in Death, a lot of great staffs, for example, for a Pyromancer, if you play as a Pyromancer, great armors, and at the end, we got great Bolter, classic Bolter for Argenta, as well as a Dragon Scale power armor for Pascal. Doloroso is the easiest one to max out in late game and gives absolutely the best items there are. So Drusians are those that you should max out, but go in order like I said. Ryza till the moment while you get the item, Explorators while you get those items, Kazvalika when you get those items, and then you max out Doloroso. Once you're done with that, then you can start maxing out other factions. Depends what items you need. Of course, I would recommend to max out Drusians first, or better to say Imperial Navy as number 1, Drusians number 2, Fellowship of the Void number 3, Kazvalika number 4, and then the last one and the worst one probably would be Opticon. Now, when it's the best one as far as Opticon goes, when you go for the Ghost Hell, and that's only if you play a Psyker. If you don't play a Psyker, you don't need Explorators. Now, Explorators, they offer a lot of items for Pascal, they offer a lot of great armors and so on, but most of those items you can find while playing, especially items for Pascal, you know. And that's why I said order of things is Imperial Navy, into maxing out Drusians, into Fellowship of the Void, into Kazvalika, into Explorators. Completely vice versa than early game trading. Yeah, just don't forget to go on Ryza and to go and max out what I said, get Astronomicon Regalia as soon as possible. Those would be all the tips and tricks for trading. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll be seeing you on the next one. Thanks for watching.